first game in Kansas City is June 16th, and then that quarterfinal match, which if Portugal and Argentina both finish top of their group and win out into the quarterfinal stage, Ronaldo and Messi will face off in the World Cup quarterfinals at Arrowhead Stadium. I mean, there's a lot of Kansas City hopes on that, being able to circle that. A marquee moment in soccer history to get those two against each other in a World Cup happening in Kansas City would be the smallest of all the bid cities, would be kind of crazy.
Morning Kickaround's World Cup coverage is brought to you now by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of summer soccer in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Visit Oakland County FC online to learn more. Kansas City is going to be hosting World Cup games. One of the host cities hosting 6 games, going to be a base location for teams, and we'll have a FIFA fan festival there. So a big epicenter of World Cup happening in KC. So kind of boots on the ground, what do the preparations look like? Are there any obvious signs of these things happening? What is the outlook locally on World Cup 2026 in Kansas City?
Yeah, I mean, I think local leaders have done an incredible job of keeping this at the forefront of most Kansas Cityans' mind, whether it's by releases, whether it's working with volunteers and stuff like that. The preparation has been pretty extensive. Even some of the bus ideas, and that would, Kansas City does not have great public transportation, if any public transportation. We're cheering the streetcar getting extended further into the quote unquote downtown footprint finally, and maybe actually being able to ride a streetcar all the way to a KC Current game this spring. That's about it for public transportation to the airport, to where all the hotels are at in different parts of the metroplex. Buses are going to be the thing, and FIFA has pretty lauded the efforts that the Kansas City bid has put together for transportation and kind of where it is. Arrowhead, relatively far outside the city center, not terribly far, but we're talking at least 10 miles from city epicenter, which is going to be a good 10-15 minute drive from downtown. And if you're in other spots of the metro, that can be 20-30 minutes, and depending on traffic, it could be even a little bwhen longer. Although as someone who grew up in California, Kansas City doesn't have real traffic. It's a joke, it's a farce. So when we say traffic, we're like, oh, it added 10 minutes to the commute. But I think there's definitely signs, and I think that the big conversation right now is the base camp. We know a lot of the major teams have announced where they're doing base camp. It is pretty hard rumors here that England, Argentina, and the Netherlands all will be camp basing in Kansas City. So it's unsurprising to me that a lot of the major teams looked at a potential 3-hour flight at most to any of their group stage games as something very wanted and sought after. And it kind of makes sense that a couple of these teams here with very high up in that FIFA ranking that probably could have gone anywhere they wanted, now all of a sudden are all fighting against each other to be in Kansas City. England, I think, really wanted Sporting KC's facility. They've opted for Sporting KC's secondary facility, which used to be their facility out at Swope Park, is the rumor there. And then there's also rumors that Argentina will take Sporting's facility, and that the Netherlands will be at the KC Current's new facility that they've tacked on to their existing facility in Riverside, Missouri. So 3 of the big boys coming to Kansas City potentially, and another potentially out in Lawrence at the University of Kansas as well. So there's potential for 4 teams to be hosted kind of within the Kansas City bid footprint. Lawrence is now 40 minutes from downtown. So that is still kind of out there and kind of removed from the chaos and craziness that will probably ensue downtown around Kansas City. But yeah, organizers, the mayor, everyone's been kind of at the forefront of putting this on the radar, and the preparations, some of the drawings for the Fan Fest kind of out front of the World War I memorial look awesome. It's pretty cool. So I think there's a lot of hype in the city. There's also a lot of like, okay, we have no idea how insane this is going to be, and kind of just the acceptance of that for a city this size, of what it's going to be like here for not just, we talk about the NFL draft and how it was when Kansas City hosted the NFL draft. And we've been trying to remind people it's going to be like that for darn near a month here in Kansas City, going from, when teams arrive at the start of the group stage and games start playing. First game in Kansas City is June 16th, and then that quarterfinal match, which if Portugal and Argentina both finish top of their group and win out into the quarterfinal stage, Ronaldo and Messi will face off in the World Cup quarterfinals at Arrowhead Stadium. I mean, there's a lot of Kansas City hopes on that, being able to circle that. A marquee moment in soccer history to get those two against each other in a World Cup happening in Kansas City would be the smallest of all the bid cities, would be kind of crazy.
Pretty incredible. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, quarterfinal in Kansas City between two of the biggest marquee names in the game would be pretty incredible. So you're saying it sounds like people are well aware of this is happening. This is in the forefront. They're starting to see. You said that some of the Fan Fest is already built. Can you detail like kind of what's all going into the Fan Fest stuff?
Fan Fest stuff hasn't quite been built. I know once we kind of get through this winter stretch, I think some of that type of construction will pop up. Similar to the scenes of the NFL draft. The NFL draft was held at Union Station, which kind of within this footprint of the downtown area in Kansas City is north, and then the World War I memorial sits on a giant hill there, and then behind the World War I memorial there's a really big grass berm, and in front of it there's a hill down towards Union Station. They will be hosting that World Cup watch party behind the World War I memorial, which is kind of a big giant tower. If you look it up, it's got great view of downtown from it, but it is so that they'll be hosting the World Cup watch party there. It's a place that they host large outdoor concerts. They've done the Chapel Roan concert that they did over the summer, the 2 nights of Chapel Roan, kind of in the same spot, and a great prep run for that. What it'll be like to have thousands of people down there. The World Cup, not the World Cup, but the NFL draft, of course, too, being held at Union Station in that area just kind of gives that same vibe. And so it's an area that Kansas City is used to hosting pretty large events and concerts. Around Memorial Day, they do a huge concert with a symphony, and people fill the grass berm and they light off fireworks by the World War I memorial. It's a pretty awesome area, good views of downtown, and I think so. Kansas Cityans know what that's going to be like. I think when the stages and all that kind of stuff gets built out, it'll look pretty awesome. At least from all the renderings that we've seen, it looks pretty sweet. But yeah, fans, like you said, fans are very well aware. I don't know how many times people know what I do. That don't care about soccer, they are still stopping and talking to me and asking me about all the different rumors, the different things we've heard, and what's going to be happening. What should I expect? People are interested. I think Kansas Cityans, regardless, take great civic pride in their city. That's something I've realized before I moved here, and I've seen it very quickly as I live here now for about a decade. And it is very clearly fans are going to pay attention, even if they don't really pay attention to soccer, just because Kansas City is going to be at the forefront of something.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely great to hear that World Cup fever is being grasped and being, there's a fervor in Kansas City for this. That's great to hear. And folks in the chat loving the conversation. One of our MK Ultras gifting 5 morning Kickaround membership. So thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Daniel, for bringing this information not only on the sale of SKC, but on the World Cup fever spreading to your town. Now, you work for the local newspaper there in town. How is the Kansas City Star, and you specifically, how are you going to be covering this? Do you have a kind of a plan of action just yet?
Yeah, I will probably be more on match coverage type things, either at the game if I can get credentials, Lord willing, and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's going to be a crazy, chaotic process, right? But yeah, a little bit more. Of course, the soccer thing is my expertise, and those who follow the city government, local government, and all that have been doing a great job of pitching in, chiming in, talking with the host committee, and doing all that. And I think our paper as a whole has done a really good job of understanding that the scale of what is coming to the town, and trying to cover it in all of its angles and all that. So,
all right, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kickaround. and looking forward to continued coverage, not only of this new era for SKC, but for World Cup 2026 as it all takes place in Kansas City this year. Thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kickaround. Morning Kickaround's World Cup coverage is brought to you now by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of summer soccer in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Visit Oakland County FC online to learn more.